Hello, angel babies. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Faith Streng. I'm a third generation spiritual healer. And as you can see from the title of this video, I'm going to talk about one of the biggest spiritual journeys of this lifetime that I've had. And that is being born with hip dysplasia, living in chronic pain for 20 plus years and finally getting a hip replacement at 35. So it wasn't called hip dysplasia when I was born. It was called congenital hip disorder, and my left hip didn't quite fit in my hip socket. Normally, they catch it when you're born. They didn't catch mine until I started to crawl, and my mom was like, "That looks weird." And I had my first operation when I was about a year old, where they put me in traction for 6 months to try and like pull my femur out of my hip socket. And I guess they thought that worked. But then when I started to ride a bike when I was about 7, I complained about hip pain. So they took me back. My mom took me back. And they said at that point that if I didn't get the operation that they recommended then, that I would need a hip replacement by the time I turned 40, which at that time in the early 90s was a big deal because hip replacements only lasted 7 years. And so I had another operation then. It was during the summer. I was in a full body cast, and they took bone from somewhere in my body to try and enlarge my hip joint. And I knew at that time that at some point I would need a hip replacement. I just figured like I would be the average age of someone who gets a hip replacement. But they never told me to like not play all the sports or like not work in bars and restaurants for 15 years. I went to boarding school for high school, and I was walking around a lot, and that's when I started to experience more pain. And then I was just lived in pain from the time I was 14 until I had the hip replacement at 35. And what's interesting about this, okay, so as I've worked in the Akashic records and am able to identify for people causes of past life causes for injuries, illnesses, etc., in this lifetime. But it was very interesting for me to go into the Akashic records and go, well, what about birth abnormalities? Like, what's that connected to? And I can look at it from a genetic point of view. We think that there may have been an aunt who also had this issue. So I can see that there is a lineage there. But to me, my understanding of genetic health challenges is that that is a manifestation of ancestral trauma. And so, what do we know about the hips? The hips are part of the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra is where we are holding on to our divine feminine energy or our intuition, our creativity, whatever you want to call it, that place of receptivity. They are about balance and security, about joy and sensuality and pleasure and abundance. And my entire life, I have wanted to move so fast. I have so much energy. I'm very comfortable taking action, even when I haven't sat on the inspiration or allowed the inspiration to come to me. So I was able to acknowledge that this situation, my personal body, has been asking me since the very beginning to slow down. Because eventually, after I was in my, mid to late 20s, when it was really catching up to me, and I just had to acknowledge, like, I cannot do the things that I want to do. I cannot use my body the way I want to use. I can't run 5 miles. I can't play all the sports. When I come home from a 7 hour bartending shift, like I have to stretch and take a bath and put my feet up, and I have to buy new shoes pretty much constantly. I cannot deny what my body is asking of me. I have to slow down. I have to. I also, like many of my clients and many of you watching, I've had a journey around my relationship with money, which is also connected to the sacral chakra. I've incarnated into the body of a woman in this lifetime so that I could work with the female biology to get more in touch with my intuition, to live in a more flow state, which if I had incarnated into the biology of a man, because I'm already so action oriented, that would have been more of a challenge for me. So this healing that was needed in the hips just highlighted all of that and brought that forward even more for me. Dealing with chronic pain for so long um, brought up a lot of issues for me around um, helplessness, vulnerability, not wanting to be seen as weak, not wanting to be seen as limping, and really hiding how I was feeling. I thought the entire time that everybody was in that much pain, and I was just weak, and I was the one who couldn't handle it, right? That's a lot of pressure to have on yourself. It wasn't until I really acknowledged how much pain I was in and allowed myself to walk how I really wanted to walk that I knew it was time for me to get the hip replacement. But I also have past life trauma around this. As I dug into my own Akashic records, I realized that in my most immediate past life, I was hit by a car. I had been a dancer for a long time, which actually a psychic also told me when I was very young. And I never really recovered from the accident. And it caused a lot of deep depression. And I just never healed or was able to process it. This was in the mid-century of the 1900s. And so I carried all that over into this lifetime too, this wanting to push through the pain, wanting to ignore the pain, not being able to process the pain. And when I went into the Akashic records and cleared for this aspect of my soul, it allowed more things to be revealed to me. So we can see this connection between what my soul needs, my own karmic lessons that I was finally ready to learn in this lifetime around flow, around allowing, around intuitive movement, respecting the physical form, my ancestral lineage that I chose, probably partially because there was this likelihood there, and as a way to help process my own past life trauma. What happened during winter of 2020, I was working from home, as most of us were. I had quit my job selling tequila, and I wasn't driving a lot. I wasn't on my feet. I was able to work how I wanted to work. I had fully invested in my business at that point. I was able to move how I wanted to move, and I was still in a lot of pain. And so I knew the time had come, but I didn't know how I was going to pay for a hip surgery. Um, but I knew I needed it. This was my biggest lesson in manifestation was this experience. I knew that I needed it and I knew that the universe would provide. I had no idea how. I went out for a walk with a friend and he just like asked me, "Oh, well, do you have health insurance?" And I was like, "No, actually, I don't have health insurance." What an interesting question. That's probably the first thing I should look into. Hadn't even crossed my mind to think about getting health insurance, which I hadn't had in years at that point. I happened to, my husband and I got signed up with this like new startup, this Silicon Valley health insurance startup. We got a great deal because it was during the pandemic and, neither of us were really, earning a lot of money. They covered almost the complete cost of my surgery, which ended up costing $120,000 because I had to stay in the hospital overnight. And then about 2 months after that, or 2 or 3 months after that, the insurance company went bust. It went bust. So the universe absolutely provided for me because I knew on such a deep level the time had come, I needed this, and that it would provide, which is what manifestation really is. And that's exactly what happened. And I got the surgery. It was very intense. It was a lot longer than we had anticipated because my hip socket was so worn away because I'd just been grinding on it for so long. I really should have had the surgery like 10 years earlier. Um, After I was able to wean off some of the medications and start using my own, essential oils and flower remedies again, my healing really took off. And because I was younger and healthier than, a lot of people who are older who get that surgery after the initial very challenging healing process, my healing was actually quite quick. I didn't even have physical therapy actually after a fucking hip replacement, which is crazy that my surgeon didn't recommend that, but I also didn't end up needing it. I now am pain free. I like can't even believe it. And living in chronic pain for so long, it's like a dream to me at this point. But I am also a healer who understands um, the need for all healing modalities. Like, I was not going to manifest a new hip for myself, right? I needed Western medicine for that. But it then allowed me to get even deeper into my own spiritual healing and go to these deeper levels. Not being in chronic pain allows you to open up to new levels of the healing process. So I am very much an advocate for utilizing all forms of healing modalities as we need them, as we are called to them. And I am so grateful at this point on the other side to be able to realize that the law of attraction isn't always about fixing yourself. Ideally, if we all were ascended masters, like, yeah, theoretically, we could heal ourselves, but most of us aren't. I mean, there are very few ascended masters walking this planet in human form. The rest of us, right, we're manifesting the help we need. We're manifesting the support we need. We're manifesting the modalities and the community and the inspiration that we need to align with the healing to support the bodies that we've chosen in this lifetime. And so that is something that I talk to my clients a lot. I attract a lot of people who are dealing with very serious health challenges, some of whom doctors can't entirely understand. I'm very clear. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed medical professional, and I insist that people are working with them along with working with me. But when we combine past life healing, energetic healing, ancestral healing, spiritual coaching with the other modalities we may be using, that's when we see permanent and lasting changes because no physical challenges come out of a vacuum. Not a single one, whether they're the result of present life trauma or past life trauma or ancestral trauma. There is deep wells of heart expansion that is available to us through seeing these health challenges as opportunities for ourselves, which isn't always available because sometimes we're in so much pain. All we can do is get through day to day. And I get that. Like, I totally get that. I have so much compassion for people who are experiencing chronic pain because I know that I was depressed, broke, abusing substances for over a decade because now I know it had nothing to do with me, really. It's because I was in so much fucking pain, like I couldn't see straight. And so I just offer this story to anyone who is experiencing this particular ailment or any other kind of health challenges to know that there is healing available for you. And it might not be with you fixing it on your own, but it is going to be with you developing a team both celestially and in person, to align with the support that you need. And often that requires us to admit our vulnerabilities, to admit to feeling helpless, to being open to surrender, while also knowing that miracles, changes in perspective are absolutely possible. I learned so much from this experience, and now I do respect my body. I respect this hip replacement that should last 40 years. I waited long enough and technology changed, and now I should be good to go on this one, for a long, long, long time. I don't push my body. I know I need to take breaks. I know that the mission for me in this lifetime is about aligning with softness, with less pushing and more receiving, with finding the ways that I need to regulate my emotional health, to finding the ways that make me feel abundant, and allowing the energy to flow through my body in the ways that it wants to. So we all have these big defining moments, and this was absolutely one for me. I've connected with some other people who've specifically experience hip dysplasia. If you have, I would love to hear from you below, or if this resonates with you in another way, let me know, because I think it's really important that we talk about this. And again, I'm all about creating community and safe spaces where we can talk about the hard shit. Like, we have to talk about the hard stuff. And it is only through sharing our stories that we are able to see reflections of each other, and that we are able to find the comfort that we are all deserving of. And if you are looking for more individual support, I do offer one-on-one sessions and 3-month psychic development, cosmic expansion mentorships. So that information is below. Wherever you are, whatever space you're in, whether you're feeling great today or you feel like shit today, you are still beloved and you are still perfect. So please, please, please hear that. And thank you for being on your spiritual journey. You are helping to raise the vibration of the planet. I'm sending you so much love. Bye for now.